My name's Amata, and in this Red Gaming Tech video I am here to talk about the Samsung Galaxy S9, as of course it was officially revealed, and I have a ton of information for you on the release date, price, specs, and of course the features, which of course is the most important thing, or one of the most important things when it comes to a smartphone. So let's begin things with the simple stuff, which is the price and release date. It is going to be priced at £739, and the S9 Plus will be £869. As I previously speculated in a rumour video not too long ago, this is close to £50 more for each model than the last generation. Now, the main crux of the difference between the S9 and the S8 is in fact the camera, as it has gained a super slow motion facility, basically making it easier to extend key moments of action, and also has a type of lens that should improve low light photography. But to get into specifics, the lens is either an f1.5 or an f2.4 and can allow more light to pass through. As I said, this will make it great for improving the image in low light conditions. Also has a dual lens camera, which of course allows for greater depth effects, and both of these cameras are 12 megapixels, whereas the front selfie camera is 8 megapixels. Now, of course, there are numerous factors that a person might consider when deciding whether or not to go with a certain phone. And I would say that the quality of the camera is definitely one of them, but obviously how good is it an upgrade versus the previous generation? You know, can it run apps without any issue? Perhaps you want to be gaming on this particular device. You know, how good is the screen? How good is the battery life? That sort of stuff. Obviously, as with any purchase that is quite expensive, there are numerous factors that you will consider, but I would definitely argue that the camera is one of them. Now, unsurprisingly, other manufacturers are following in the footsteps of Apple's Animoji, and we have AR emoji from Samsung, which basically creates an avatar of you based upon the phone's front camera, and basically copies your movements or facial expressions to create a unique character, and these can be sent over in GIF form, so you can send these over WhatsApp or what have you. Now, just to go back to the camera for a second, you may recall that I mentioned something about super slow motion, and basically it is an improvement based upon the old model and can now be set to record at 960 frames per second. So for those of you who perhaps have a fancy for filmmaking, you can record some really cool stuff that would be really quite interesting for some alternative films, something like that, some uni projects, you know, a balloon bursting or something falling that would perhaps be too quick to capture properly, could actually be used quite effectively, I think, to get some cool moments, even if you're just playing around and having a bit of fun, or if you're perhaps trying to prove that when it comes to filming, it's not the expense of the camera but how you use it, which I definitely believe. Anyway, let's move on from that to the display, which, as I said, is also a very important factor, as it has a high-end screen which is going to be 1440 by 2960 and is going to make use of the Super AMOLED technology and will fill the whole front of the phone. It's going to have 529 pixels per inch on the regular S9, and on the S9 Plus is going to have 570 pixels per inch on that particular version, which is going to be more than the iPhone X. Now, it is also going to be keeping the Bixby AI, but the real question, of course, is the specs. And we have the full specs for the S9 and S9 Plus. So I'm going to start with the S9, of course. We have, again, 5.8-inch screen, excuse me. Camera, again, is rear is 12 megapixels, f1.5/2.4, and the front is 8 megapixels, 4 gigabytes of RAM, an Exynos 9810 processor, 64 gigabytes storage plus 400 gigabytes micro SD, and weighs a fairly light 163 grams. As for the S9 Plus, it's going to be 6.2 inches for screen size and going to, of course, pack the same camera. It is, however, going to have a little more RAM at 6 gigabytes. Naturally, it has the same processor, but it does come with more internal storage at 128 gigabytes plus, of course, the 400 gigabyte micro SD. It, of course, does weigh a little more as well at 189 grams. Now, there is a very important question that I have yet to address in this video, and that is, does this phone keep the headphone jack? We have seen some companies misguidedly, at least in my opinion, follow after Apple in this whole let's arbitrarily remove the headphone jack for no good reason thing, but thankfully the S9 does not follow that trend. So that does mean that yes, there is a headphone jack. So a definite plus for me especially. Now I did actually recently upgrade, so this isn't going to be on my list for quite some time, but if I were in the market for an upgrade, not having a headphone jack, at least for me, would be an instant no sale, because if there was something better, if there was a genuine upgrade to be had, that's fair enough. You know, technology moves on. We all go on to the next thing. You know, no one really listens to cassette tapes anymore unless you're feeling nostalgic. So that's fair enough, but there isn't really anything better than the 3.5mm jack, and the replacements for it are just more inconvenient than what we already had, because they, you know, involve dongles or wireless audio or whatever, and all of these have issues which, to be honest, aren't really worth the cost of them, if that makes any sense. Like, the benefits are basically nil for more inconvenience, at least in my personal opinion. So I'm definitely pleased to see Samsung not following this trend with the S9. However, let's finish up this video with a comment from an analyst at market research firm IDC, a fellow by the name of Francisco Geronimo, who said, quote, "I'm not sure if the improvements will be enough to make people rush and upgrade. The quality of the camera is a purchasing driver for many consumers, and Samsung's does appear better than the Google Pixel 2. But I was expecting to see more development around its intelligence. It still relies on the cloud, meaning you need to be connected to the net to do live translations, for instance." So it does seem that some experts are a little skeptical as to how well the S9 is going to do. As I said, the main improvement versus the S8 is the camera. So it's hard to say exactly how well it's going to do. I don't know if you'd want to buy it if you have an S8, but perhaps if you have an older Samsung phone or a non-Samsung Android or an iPhone even, I would say that, to be honest, this looks like a decent enough upgrade if perhaps you're in the market, if you like to keep fairly top of the line, and you get to keep your headphone jack on top of it. So take it how you will, but regardless of that, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.